And I think the big thing the mining companies listening to this should be aware of is like, we're doing this project, we're moving forward, we'd love feedback, and we're happy to share results. Like, this is a low cost financial impact of assessing and seeing on, is this going to save me money? Is it going to be better for the environment? Is it going to be better for safety? Is it going to be more efficient? And does it allow me to keep my operations going?
Today we have a fabulous guest. It's Josh Ogden, CEO and co-founder of AVSS. This is a guy who wants to blow up stuff for mining companies, and not in the way you imagine. So stay with us, listen to this. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. Tell our listeners what you remember about our first meeting, because it was long ago. It was either 7 or 10 years ago.
Oh, geez. Yeah, our first meeting was in 2017, and you were presenting at Unmanned Systems Canada conference.
Okay.
And you were looking for new applications of the wind tunnel and said, maybe drone parachutes. And that's when we raised our hand. We're like, oh, we actually want to do that. And within 3 months, we were out testing at the, I think it's Ontario Technical University is the name, and at the automotive wind tunnel facility. And that's been, 2018. So we're like 6 years since then.
So you're saying I had anything to do with that?
Yeah, like and it's hilarious. Like I think we were talking about before, where we have a longtime client, employee / investor because of that, because we needed to find someone who'd done wind tunnel testing, and Google resulted in someone in Australia, and just the way in which things rolled out. And that person was with us, and they're still with us for several years. And it's just something that the world's small, right? And now today we're talking about parachutes, dropping things, but not so much the same.
So this is what I remember about it. Actually, Carl Weatherall, the CEO who preceded me here at ReThink Mining, he said, Don, I hope you can bring stuff from other industries to mining. And as it turns out, the first thing that I brought, which was a podcast we just did, was a guy I met at the wind tunnel at Ontario Tech University. And now you. And this is what I remember about the meeting. So you and the other guy named Josh show up.
Redundancy.
And they're like, we want to test parachutes for drones in the wind tunnel. I'm like, well, I promised the university that I would test things in here other than automotive, because it's the automotive center of excellence, but it's not going that well. And I told them it would be drones. And I'm like, parachutes is close enough. And you guys came in to rent the climatic wind tunnel at this university is $10,000 a day. And I thought, okay, this is like some kind of charitable act. These guys are going to come in. You were barely out of school, the two of you. I thought, I'll never see them again. But I was amazed and delighted when you reached out to me a week or two ago and told me the business you created is actually thriving. And the amount of little parachutes you're selling for drones defies my belief.
Well, you know what? I can tell you we started the company in April 2017. We did that testing. It was February or March 2018. So 1 year in. And we self-funded the first year and eventually raised a little bit of money here and there. And then COVID happened. But today we sell worldwide. We sell to 4 of the top 10 drone manufacturers worldwide. We have other product lines, and we have a team of about 25, all technical except 3 of us. It's something that, we're very proud of what we've grown. It's Canadian made. We still do Canadian sewing. We have assembly in Canada. We export worldwide. And it was funny. It's those small relationships at the start and where they go. And, who would have thought 6 years later, 7 years later, we're talking today about the same company, same concept of dropping things, but a little bit different now.
Yeah. So the other thing that delighted me was that test we did together was funded by IRAP.
Yep.
And I love IRAP. It's a program funded by the Canadian government to help young technology companies succeed. And it's really easy to apply for, easy to administer. Their dream is exactly what happened to you, that you can create something and grow the company. So I'm sure they're delighted with that as well.
Let me expand on the IRAP. IRAP's had 2 wins with me personally. So my first business, the first grant money we ever had, I used to be in the used golf ball business. Used to get balls at the ponds and recycle. Our clients were Dollarama, Giant Tiger. We sell them used balls. We're called Castaway Golf. And our first grant ever was the youth project through the NRC. Chris Butler, shout out. Just saw him in the airport a couple of weeks ago when I was coming back from Vancouver on a red eye. And it's something that, such a small world. And when we started the second business, who was the first people that we called was Chris and said, hey, we got this idea. And at first he said, drone parachutes seem simple, but I got a drone guy at NRC. Spoke with a gentleman, Steven, I forget his last name, he's from Cape Breton, I believe. And he was a drone guy, and he goes, oh yeah, this is a real problem. And those types of conversations were enough for us to bet our money that we had. We still had student debt, but we bet our money to start this business and said 12 months, figure it out, good luck. And from that, so IRAP has played a huge role in us getting those first initial steps. 20 grand today for a company who's 7 years old, it's like, okay, is it worth the effort? But when you only have the idea and you have, 50 to 100K to play with, that 20K is huge. And NRC has definitely played a huge role with us.
Okay, but hold on. You're telling me IRAP funded a used golf ball business?
Yeah,
I take it back.
No, you know what we did? We were building automated robotic systems to clean the pond. So the goal was get rid of the divers. We had a mechanical system, but eventually we were building a barge system with sonar, with LiDAR, detect where the pond balls were. And at 2014, we didn't even know, but we were building sea level, ground level robotics. And like the application today, if we would have just moved that technology and not focused so much on the golf balls, our company, like 2014, that's 10 years ago, right? At that time, we were like way out there and we didn't even know. It was just, we needed a better tool. Okay. We didn't want divers. Divers die. They get stuck. It's dangerous.
A lot of them die diving for golf balls.
Well, there's alligators. There's just, you can't see. So so IRAP is very much like we showed the business case we could make money and we wanted new tools to be more innovative, more efficient. And that was the argument is the current way just doesn't make sense. Let's build it. And then there's spin-off businesses. And that's kind of, I think, what the mining industry is looking at is how do we make it greener? How do we make it more efficient? How do we make it safer? And sometimes, like drones, the tech's here, but how do we adapt it to those use cases?
Yeah, so there's a lot of promotion of drones being used in mining, mostly for, I guess, exploration.
Yep.
Sometimes they'll evaluate the amount of ore. And anyone who's in mining will see those, or in the drone business, let's say. But then you came up with something I'd never heard of, and it kind of blew my mind.
No pun intended.
So tell me how this idea of blowing up stuff for mining companies came to you.
Okay, so it started in 2018. So when we were doing, after wind tunnel testing, that summer we spent testing parachutes out in the real world, in our test field. And one thing we realized was parachutes would drift. And we've had to call Davey Tree Service. We've had to climb trees. It's a pain in the butt. And we were like, this is dumb. Why are parachutes just drifting? So we started tinkering a little side project on guided system. So the gentleman that we worked with on the wind tunnel, he was one that kind of gave him kind of a skunk work project, said, just work on it. It's not our core focus, but we'll see. So after a few years, we got to a point where it was working, good accuracy, and we brought it to the Canadian government through the ISED testing stream. And we said, hey, we've got this new innovation. And we worked on guided delivery systems for resupply, for austere environments, for First Nations, for remote communities. Because it's great that a drone can go far out, but sometimes for those long distances, 200 kilometers, those drones can't land. So you need to have a way to drop and accurate. So those were some of our initial use cases. And then as we built the technology, we iterated, we developed new methods on one. We started having something that you could drop out of an aircraft. Then we started working on something could navigate without GPS, so using machine vision. So building out these product suites. But ultimately, we started looking at like, how do we find that perfect, repeatable product market fit use case? Like we're such a general tool. We felt that the tool in itself was like 2014 with drones. You could inspect, you could take photos, you could do all this stuff. But ultimately, what is those like nailed down use case? If I use the drone analogy, it's kind of people are using Ilios drones for confined space. It's a very targeted, very nice small market that can grow upwards. And so we'd been approached at one point. Someone saw our guided system like, oh, you could trigger avalanches. And at first we're like, that sounds crazy. But then we started digging and we started looking at Parks Canada and how they use howitzers. We looked at how they still do explosive drops from helicopters, and we said, wow. And then you start looking at the academic literature. Okay, people have talked about it for a decade, but regulatory environment wasn't right. Drone technology wasn't good enough. There's hurdles with explosives. But for us, we're regulatory people. Our main product line is people buy it to fly drones over people, so there's all regulatory. We do compliance testing. We import explosives already through airbag manufacturers for some of our products. And we do drop systems, guided systems, unguided systems. And it almost was like, wow, like the regulatory time, the drone technology, our regulatory understanding, our approvals, this is perfect.
So you told me about the 4 ways. In fact, I think you showed me 4 pictures.
Yep.
Or 3 ways that avalanches are triggered right now.
Yep.
And I guess we're trying to trigger a little avalanche when the snow is building up to avoid a big avalanche that causes death and destruction.
Yeah, so it's a proactive management. So avalanches are more prone after a certain snowfall. There's certain periods of time where they're more inclined, and they can disrupt the flow of traffic for the Department of Transportation, like Rogers Pass, or they can disrupt the flow of people on a mine site.
So the pictures you showed me.
Yep, the 4 use.
The first one was a guy. It was either a guy or a Wile E. Coyote. I don't know which one, but he was holding looked like a lit stick of dynamite, and he was throwing it, I don't know, I guess at a cliff of snow or something. He was wearing his PPE.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Wile E. Coyote, or it might have been a ski patrol guy.
Yeah, out of the side of the helicopter.
So that seems pretty dangerous. And I guess the other thing you could do is you go up in the helicopter. I don't know what a helicopter costs to get in the air these days, but it's got to be 10 grand.
I think it's $4,000 an hour. I was told $4,000. I don't know. I'm not a helicopter.
Thousands of dollars an hour. So you can do that and drop your dynamite. And then what you told me was when you drop dynamite or explosive, whatever you call it, from a helicopter into a lot of snow, it tends to sink to the bottom, and now it goes poof, and you don't get the perfect avalanche.
You want an air blast.
So now you either drop a pile of explosive into the snow to get that avalanche going, or if you can make it explode just above the snow, a meter or 2, you get the perfect avalanche with just a little bit of explosive. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So the air blast is that holy grail that people look for, making sure that you're really triggering it above. But the methods of dropping, like you've got gravity and physics, and it penetrates. So by deploying above, you get a more efficient, more effective avalanche.
And then the other option that you might see at mines, I understand, is they can build a tower.
Yep.
Where they need to cause avalanches frequently, because it's a frequent problem, and throw their explosive from the tower. But the tower costs $1 million to build?
Yeah, I think I saw a quote, 3 towers for $1 million to the BC government. They're called RACs, Remote Avalanche Control Systems. They have explosives attached to that need to be resupplied. There's a system called GASX, which is like two liquids that come together. But ultimately, they need to be built, they need to be serviced, and they need to be replenished.
And how do you replenish them?
So from my understanding, they fly up on the helicopter to the location. They get I think on the Bison Tower, they go up and they replenish the dynamites by, once it's empty. I don't know. I don't think they have to fly up to the actual spot. I think they like winch it down, or there's a way to get it down.
But they do it by helicopter?
Well, they got to get to the location, right?
Right.
Because the avalanche towers are in known avalanche pathways that are recurring. The problem is like from our conversations with some of the mines is that I don't always want to use that. You know, I've only got 6 or 12 blasts. I want to use it when I can't fly a drone or can't get up there. But because it's there, or sometimes they don't work. So sometimes the system's down and they don't have that pathway covered. But they know that expensive tower was built there because of it. So it's something that like it's a useful tool when the climate, like the weather isn't appropriate for a human to get up there. But when the weather's good, why waste that good shot? And that's kind of the attitude, it seems, from that is, could we use it less? We still need it, but we don't want to always use it.
So then when you got in touch with me, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And you told me you had been hearing from a guy at Bruce Jack Mine that he had to deal with avalanches. And I thought, well, that's super cool, but how many mines really need to deal with avalanches? And then you rattled off like 4 or 5 mines where you know it's an issue. Tell me about that. Like, why are snow avalanches an issue for miners? And what about outside of Canada, in Chile and Australia? Is there issues there as well?
Yeah, so from what I understand, it's like where the mining locations in the mountain regions, there's deposits that they're looking for, and avalanches come with the snowfall, and the snowfall's in those spots. It's like your high altitude. So it seems New Zealand, Australia, they're still using either howitzers, explosives, for whether it's the DOT, Department of Transportation, or the mines. Chile, apparently huge user. And ultimately, you're disrupting their ability to make money. You're screwing up their production because they need to manage those avalanche proactively. And it's something that I think when we were on looking at, like, it was a quick Google, and like you saw something with Kitimat being mentioned. You see a lot of the northern climates where they're in the mountainous regions and they've got to manage them. So again, for us, like, we're the avalanche, and bringing up Brucejack. Like, we were just at the in British Columbia at the Canadian Avalanche Association, and Brucejack did a presentation, and that's when we started clicking, being like, wait, this is bigger than just ski hills. This is bigger than Department of Transportation. There's economic engines and industries that need this technology, and listening to them. And I remember when I spoke to a gentleman at the show, I said, why aren't you using drones? His first response is, that's illegal. It's like, ooh, that's a good response, because that's not right. But that means there's some confusion in the marketplace. That means what they've been told in the past is still sticking. And it's like, no, things are changing. And this is where I think with the mining, there's many use cases there that they're going to need to use explosives for the avalanche management, that drones could come in, and they're not going to replace everything, but they're going to be a new tool, allow for more flexibility and more efficiency, more safety.
I bet that you are one of the few people in the world, if not the only one, who would be qualified and allowed to drop explosives from drones. I mean, other than people involved in war, but am I right about that?
You know what? We're not the first. So the first one, the pioneers, is the state of Alaska. I got to give them credit. I just had a meeting with a gentleman there, Mr. Tim Glassett, and they've been looking at this for a couple of years. They did their real trial, and they were told that they were the first drone operations to drop explosives just in February. So we're very much on the cutting edge. We're not first, though. I don't want to say that. That would be inappropriate. But it seems like the thing with us is we've been investing in this adjacent similar technology, drop systems, guided systems, the software, the hardware. And for us to adapt is such a natural progression. So it's like, I don't want to say that we're the first for this. I think there's been also proof of concept, but I think we're going to be the first ones to really make it big with it. Like right now, we've got a contract with Transport Canada. We're going to be doing triggering in February. We're going to get all the data points, but we're also following. Like myself, I'm going to go. My goal is over the next 6 months to go to Alaska, go to BC, go to the different operations and just shadow. Like we're at the point now where we have all the subcomponents, but for us, it's like what we want to be first on is that first end-to-end solution, plug and go. The drone industry has that problem, and I think we can solve that seamless integration into workflow.
So dropping the explosives, you're telling me now that the parachutes you developed originally for drones, which of course for people who don't know about the drone industry, if your drone craps out in the middle of the sky and falls to the earth, it's very dangerous. So the idea is put a parachute on it in the event it has some failure.
It's a backup device to prevent a single source of failure.
So not only do you have a thing you can drop from the drone now with parachute, you can guide that parachute?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that's really cool about our project is we're testing 2 different iterations. We have one where guided, and we have to be mindful of the accuracy, the location, and then there's some shortcomings, but it allows for those air blasts. The second solution we're trying to bring out is a more eco-friendly, biodegradable, leave no trace, material selection. Probably won't be guided, but it'll be the material that break down. And what we're doing is we're testing the efficiency, the effectiveness, as well as the environmental impact.
So tell us about I think you got $1 million contract with the Canadian federal government. Is that right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so through the testing stream. So ISET, Innovation Solutions Canada, has a program called Testing Stream where they will purchase pre-commercial Canadian technology. So the technology has to be between TRL 7 and 9. And the goal of the program is to help federal departments test new Canadian innovations, validate it, and help them get to market. So we have used a previous project to commercialize an earlier iteration of the guided system. We ended up selling it to foreign governments, and it's been a program of really good success. So this program with Transport Canada is they're the testing department. ISET is the payee, and you go through the proposal process, you get matched, then you go through negotiations with the government, and then you come to a contract. And so this contract's about $1 million value. 1.096 or something. And with that is Transport Canada is the lead. They're the testing department evaluating our technology because they have issues with avalanches in the railroads. And another department that's following us is D&D because they also manage avalanches. So basically what that does for us is we get real feedback from end users, government end users, big client base. Moreover, what's really important for us is the credibility. We're not just testing in the backcountry, doing our own thing, dropping explosive, kind of Yahoo. It's like, no, these are formal federal departments that want to see how this is done and see that, they don't want trains stopping along the railroads because of an avalanche. They want to get ahead of it. And if they can be more efficient, safer, they're going to do it.
So this gets to why I wanted to have you on the podcast. I was telling you about what ReThink Mining does. We basically present new technologies of different TRL levels and try to find who amongst our members are interested in them, who might want to explore it more or invest in a project or participate in one. And for a lot of the technologies that we introduce, it's a substitute. The participation of the mining companies is a substitute for angel investment, for venture capitalists. It's a way to get really expensive pilots underway because each of the mining companies will contribute a share. And what you told me is that that's not the kind of help you need right now. You don't need a pile of money. In fact, you have $1 million from the Canadian government. The kind of help that you want is to understand the issues in avalanche control in mining. Is that right?
Yeah, we want to hear why they don't want to use drones. We want to hear why they think it's not going to work. We want to hear why the current system is perfect. And we want to build out the processes to understand how is their workflow. And ultimately, the goal for us is we want to tailor our technology. Our current project has to be done in February. So we've got a short window of opportunity to refine things. And we don't want to take missteps. And we want real feedback from people that have been doing this for years or decades. And so for us, pilot project's great. Afterwards, you guys can, if someone wants for us to go and test, that's awesome. But what we want is to be able to build out that full solution from the start with the end user in mind. No pun intended. And we basically see 3 use cases. We see Department of Transportation, we see ski hills, and we see mining. And we think if we're not there talking with the mines, we're not on site watching their operations, we're not hearing their feedback, we're going to make a couple missteps that we're blind to. It's the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. And for us, at this point, we've built enough product. We've done it in the drone world. Public safety is a huge client base of ours. We learned they don't like tools. They want simple things, quarter turns, quick setup. And those are things we incorporate in our DNA and our product. And this is where we see the opportunity is from now until February. We want to hear feedback. We want to hear that. So when we finalize our product, because we have to start producing probably November, December for our deadline, we want to have those refinements, whether it's on the software. Hey, I want this one data point to be able to collect. I don't want to use my pen and paper to do the logging of where I'm triggering. I want it to be on software, or I want the weather data collected, or little things like that on making those hurdles, or maybe they need more regulatory insight and how do they have pathways. But our biggest thing is we want feedback.
I imagine that most of the people who work in mining are like the rest of us. They can't believe that anyone is going to let you drop explosives from a drone. And you were saying you can.
Yeah. There's ways to do it. There's approvals. And again, not being first through the gate is always a big accomplishment for people, but that's always hard. And the state of Alaska has proven you can do it and you can get the approvals. And it's something that for us, it's when we understand the import, export, the manufacturing, and the rules associated. Ultimately, everything we do is from the guise of safety with aviation. If I can drop explosives from a helicopter, why can't I from a drone? There's hurdles, there's paperwork, there's procedures.
So let's say I can imagine someone in Canada. Actually, we saw a few mines already where they're doing avalanche control. What if someone says, I want to work with you and I'm in New Zealand or I'm in Chile? How would you approach the regulatory matters there?
So the one thing that's good with the aviation industry is when you take off from the Philippines, you can land in the United States. There's international harmonization, and the drone industry really trends towards that. So if it's New Zealand, Australia, Europe, we fall under similar rules called SORA, Specific Operational Risk Assessment, and there's methodologies that are common. Chile, I have to double check on to understand what the nuance is there, but we're regulatory people. We've got really good internal regulatory understandings because we sell a regulatory product. Additionally, we have external support that we can bring in some experts if there's something that we're not fully clicking on. But basically, we can navigate regulations. That doesn't scare us.
So this would be a first for us at ReThink Mining. When I think about the projects that have been undertaken by our members, the thing that they had in common, I think, was that the technologies were mostly early technology readiness levels. And they said, we're going to contribute and try to advance it so we can get to commercialization. And we're going to put in money and give it attention. And I think yours is a little bit different because I think your technology readiness level is a lot further along, a lot more advanced and ready. And all you're asking them for is for their input, their advice, and I guess their attention to say, what's the best way to do this? And are we doing this in a way that is appealing to you? Think I have that right?
Yeah, 100%. We like, you can always find more money. You can't find more time. But we do. That's what we want. We want their time and their attention and feedback. And it's something that we respect greatly on that request. We know it's an ask and we know it's a big ask. But for us, it's, the time and attention would be a home run for us at this stage.
Yeah. What else do you think people need to know about what you're doing in the mining industry?
We're new to mining. We will not be experts in the mining operations. We will not profess to be. We're good at drones. We're good at dropping things. We're good at building tech, and we're good at listening to feedback. So we're going to come in and we're going to be green on some topics, but we're there to learn. We're not the smartest ones in the room. You guys have real experience, real insight, and we know that the people in the field are going to provide more feedback than any book could.
Hey, you and I may be, when we think about our conversation today, we may be the two people who know the least about mining, who have ever talked about mining on a podcast.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think that mentality gives us more open. We come in with certain blinders, but we also come in with certain critiques. Why do it this way? An example, we had a meeting wondering why are you using pull wire, why not electronic? And it's like, it's just standard practice. Okay, those are things that we might come and be like, why this? And sometimes it'll be stupid. Yes, you have to do this because of safety or efficiency or weather constraints. But there's things that we'll ask that might question the current process. And I think that's a unique element that will come in. And I think the big thing the mining companies listening to this should be aware of is like, we're doing this project, we're moving forward, we'd love feedback, and we're happy to share results. Like, this is a low cost financial impact of assessing and seeing on, is this going to save me money? Is it going to be better for the environment? Is it going to be better for safety? Is it going to be more efficient? And does it allow me to keep my operations going? Because we're all rowing in the same way. We want to see the success. And if the technology isn't delivering, numbers don't lie, right? We have to find quantifiable benefits. And this is where following along and giving us feedback is just going to set you up for success.
Well, I'm so delighted to see you again, 7, 8 years after the first time we met, and delighted to see your company succeeding the way it is, employing people and all of that. When this podcast drops, we're going to accompany it at the same time with a reach out to all of our members of ReThink Mining, asking them if they would like to participate with you, sharing their ideas. If there's enough of them, we'll put together a workshop and have everyone talk all at once about the idea of using drones to trigger avalanches with explosives. And if anyone's listening and one of your coworkers is involved in this kind of thing, please reach out to either Josh Ogden at AVSS or myself, Don Toporowski, and we'd love to hear from you and have you involved in this fascinating project. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Look forward to the next steps.